Good morning, everyone. I am graced with the presence of Brittany Anderson. She is the founder and CEO of Renala. She's a certified coach and a Lego serious play facilitator. Try to say that one a couple of times. But I'm really excited to talk about your upcoming cohort, Living Room Leadership, because we oftentimes are really focused on our career, and as women, I know we can guilt ourselves, even men can guilt themselves about the time that they spend at home. And so I'm really excited to understand how you reimagined leadership in the form of not just at the boardroom, but how do we implement this at home and
Mhm.
where it all began for you. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Brittany.
Yeah. So yeah, the living room leadership is the title of our new book that just came out on October 14th. And so yeah, it's really about some lessons that were really learned the hard way. And as a military spouse, Candace, military marriages are incredibly hard. We face numerous deployments, moves, uncertainty. Especially as a spouse, it was, just having to completely reinvent my career, my friend group, my church community, all of the things every couple 2 to 3 years. And it was, my husband retired last year as an Air Force One pilot. So we were in DC for the last 8 years of his career, which was really a blessing because uh, it was a blessing and a curse at the same time because we were settled for the first time ever, but at the same time, and I was able to really build my career for the first time ever. I had always been kind of a freelance journalist, and then I was doing digital marketing and consulting for a while as we moved all over the country. But then when we settled back in DC, I was able to really launch my career and step into leadership in a nonprofit and later it is at a big consulting firm at the same time that he was becoming the director of operations for the presidential airlift group. And we just found we were just going in completely different directions
Wow.
and both kind of building our things and not realizing what we were neglecting at home, and not just building our things but also super invested in our kids and kind of neglecting each other in a lot of ways.
I love what you're saying right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause for just a
Mhm.
second because he didn't have a small job, needless to
No.
say. And I'm in that season as well where, my husband retires in a year. And this is that first time to get to anchor into something
Mhm.
and build community and expand. My business has lived in 3 different states already.
Mhm.
And it's only, year 4. So if that tells you anything. But, it's like we build this resiliency and we kind of wait and we pause until it's our moment. And then once it becomes that moment, the challenge that I'm hearing you speak to is not even necessarily just the children, it's each other. When you're growing and you're building your own thing, it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day activities that we have to do, especially if you're an entrepreneur where you're only one person doing like 25,000 things. And so
Yep.
I'm excited to hear even more and not to interject too much there,
All
but
good.
I love what you're speaking to because I think so many women that are spouses or men that are spouses go through this same thing.
Mhm.
And we're often kind of torn in that same element of what do we do?
Right.
So
Yeah.
continue on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, it ultimately left us on the brink of divorce in 2019.
Wow.
And it really what brought us out was this idea. I was at the time going to work every day and helping other organizations build vision, purpose, strategy, a brand identity, all of these things. And I started to think, we have such intentionality in our businesses and our careers. We invest so much in our own leadership development, our own growth, and then just having these guiding principles in our work, in our businesses. And yet we don't do the same work for our families.
Right.
And it was ultimately just this exploration of what if we started to have a vision and it, explore, do we really actually want the same things? what are our values? What is our purpose as not only as a married couple but as a family?
Right.
And so the more we got into doing that, it really transformed both of us. And it really paved the way for what is Renala today. What is this idea of living room leadership? Because for us, doing that work at home and investing in each other, investing in this shared vision and purpose and values, and doing work to understand each other better, our strengths, our unique identity, what we needed from each other, from our kids, what our kids needed from us. Completely changed not just our family, but the way that we showed up at work as well. And so that's where this idea comes from of leadership begins at home, this idea that of living room leadership, that you can lead better through the lens of your family when you begin to live in vision, purpose, values, all of those things. So, yeah.
Wow.
And so that's really where this all started, was really just testing things in our own family. I got my coaching certification in 2021, and then I became completely obsessed with play. And so that's really what we're helping other families do now, because play activates, when you're especially when you're using both of your hands, it activates 80% of your brain,
Mm.
whereas talking aloud only activates 15%. And so we use play. I shared I was a facilitator, so I was doing vision, purpose, values work in for companies, government agencies. But to do it through play is just incredibly powerful. And so that's really what we help families do, is activate that power of play. We're using Legos, art, games, stories, to really help them better understand each other, build that vision, purpose, values, and then create systems that actually work because they're rooted in an understanding of who they are.
Wow. I think that's so
Yeah.
powerful. Well, and that's something that I'm seeing so much even, in the clients that I work with is that element of play is
Mhm.
something that we forget about as adults and we don't realize that creativity and flow in that way helps us process through a lot of emotion, a lot of areas of our life that we might not visit because we're so busy focused forward on this or that. And
Mhm.
I love that you're incorporating this and teaching it to children and even adults. I think for the first time, like, what does it look like to come together as a family unit to set these expectations and even boundaries in some ways, I'm
Mhm.
sure. But you have this rich background in all of the development, like you were saying. And how did you connect those principles to create Renala? Like, what was that defining moment? I know you mentioned that you and your husband were, in this rocky period where you might decide to shift and separate, which is actually very common upon retirement. I just learned this, that a lot of marriages end in divorce after military couples are retired, which is super interesting. Won't dive into that. But what was that defining moment for you that you realized you wanted to bring this into the home?
Yeah, I mean, it was this I well, it was interesting because I went to a conference in 2019, and I came out of that conference hiring my first coach I'd ever hired, and, I really hired her to help me finish a novel I was writing at the time. And ironically, that novel was about a woman who herself, not in, a yoga retreat or isolation or all of the things that we often think are, necessary to kind of discover who we are, is kind of going
Right.
off on a big grand vacation, or, being isolated, or, at a monastery or something. But instead, in this novel, this woman finds herself in her family. And
Mm.
it's just an interesting inflection point in my story, because I had hired this coach to help me finish this project that I had just been so passionate about since college. I first wrote it as a short story in college and started turning it into a novel. And the interesting thing was, working with her, I did not finish the novel in my time working with her. In fact, I hardly worked on it at all. But I did resurrect our marriage, and that was
Mm.
because she said, your creativity is always going to be limited if your relationships are broken.
Wow.
And, it was kind of this, oh, okay, sorry. I think
You're
my
so good.
whole
Yeah, you're here.
screen just, like, blacked out. It was very strange. It was it wasn't this, like, I needed to necessarily stay in the marriage, but it was like, you need to make a decision.
Mm,
And so it was this kind of, uh, inciting incident or inflection point where it was like, I needed to make a decision to stay or to go.
mhm.
And the more she started challenging me on the stories that I was telling myself about him, about our military life, all of those things, the more I was like, I think this could actually work. And that's when I started thinking about how do we live in vision? How do we live it with a purpose? And what are our values together? And we just started kept exploring all of these things and then just discovering we really want the same things. It's just
Mm,
sometimes you just can't see it because you have this veil of resentment and anger and frustration at all of the ways they've hurt you or the military life that I'd married into, and you can't see what's right in front of you and that you both want the same things. In fact, we do a lot of work with not just with families, but with couples. And, we're using not just Legos, but different tools like it sounds weird, but I trust me, it's incredibly powerful. But things like scarves and toys and metaphor cards and images, and they're creating the sculpt of the marriage that they want. They create it together, and they look at it, and it's filled with just stories and metaphor and symbols, and they're like, oh my gosh, we've been married 10, 20 years, and I never realized we actually want the same things. And so we certainly didn't have that at the time that we were healing. But to give that to families now based on the training that I've gotten and the tools that we've developed, we can help a family or a couple
yeah.
uh, process that and realize that in as little as a few hours to a day, with something that might take years in therapy to do. So yeah, so that's really where this all began and how we're 6 years later where we are now, healed and helping other families do this work a lot more
Yeah.
quickly than we did.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about going through something in life is that when you've had that lived experience of the challenge of seeing one another or the challenges that you faced as a couple, even coming back together, and even the outcome of like the realization moment that you're like, how have I missed this? And how am I going to carry in a different direction all of this information forward? It helps you to inform not only from that personal perspective,
Mhm.
but then you have all of this training to amplify what you already know to be true. And it's just so powerful because we truly help the people that we used to be. And
Mhm.
I see it often, where it is true, like, our creativity cannot flow through if we have all of this emotion that's tied up within us because it's all created in the same energy, and so it's that challenge of, "Yes, I need to work through this, filter through this, and make a choice either way," and it'll be exciting to see you 2 go into these different retreats that I know that they host through military communities, especially because I know that they have a lot of, couples experiences or they used to, so that will be exciting to see, and then, learning that you have this big summit tomorrow, and I was excited, I was like, "Okay, I don't normally do this, but would you wanna hop on a live and talk about what you're going to work through? And I would love to hear some of the science behind play so people can really actualize this into their life to think I mean, A, you had my husband at Legos because he's a huge Lego fanatic, and in fact, I have something around the office somewhere that he built for me, but, um, can you dive us into what play looks like from a scientific perspective and why it opens that channel so much?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with play and then I'll get into a little bit about what the summit's going to look like tomorrow because play is integral to that as well.
'Kay.
And so, yeah, play, I think I shared earlier, it activates 80% of your brain, especially when you're using both of your hands, because obviously both of your hands are connected to both sides of your brain. If you're just talking out loud, you're only activating roughly up to 15%. And so think of how much you're leaving on the table. Play is it helps you because it's activating 80%. It's unearthing things you might not even know were inside of you. And when we're working with Legos or we're working with, stories or games or the different ways that we work, we're always activating the body in some way,
Mhm.
which I know you're super passionate about as well.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it just has this way of uprooting things because sometimes you'll do something subconsciously, like you'll put a clear Lego on top of something, or you'll put this leaf or a flower, or these kits are all very intentionally designed that we
Mhm.
use. They're all special. They're not. You can't just go to Target and buy a box of Legos and use it for this work. They're all very intentionally designed for
Wow.
this work. I don't know of anybody else doing this work with families. Lego serious play is often widely used in organizations to kind of develop strategy or build teams, but I'm not aware of anyone else using it with families like we do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you might select a Lego piece that you're like, I didn't even know I didn't even realize I picked that for that reason. But the facilitator like us will ask a question about it, and then it will open up a whole new story or a set of ideas. And then some other research that's I think really interesting and why it's so powerful is to learn something new using traditional methods, whether you're just reading or taking a class. It can take up to 400 repetitions. So you have to watch it or listen to it 400 times before you learn it. But if you're doing it through play, it only takes up to 10 to 20. So
Wow.
it's so much quicker to
Mm.
play your way through it. And so that's really, really why we just see such value and such accelerated transformation in families because we're facilitating that process using play. For children, it's super important too. The ages between 10 and 14, specifically, I mean, I think play is important for all of childhood, but they are
Right.
finding between 10 and 14 how children play during those ages is a portal into how they're going to show up as adults in relationships. And
Mm.
so if you think about it, 10 to 14, it's also that same time we're, putting instant access to screens in their hands. And
Mhm.
so kids are playing less and less, especially in that time frame. And aside from the, not being as connected to others because they're just on screens. I don't want to paint screens completely bad because
Right.
my kids connect with friends in other states through the screens
Right.
and play that way. So, but it's imaginative play, being bored, all of those things are super important to helping them have and nurture that innate sense of creativity. And so, we are super passionate about helping kids and adults reawaken what their genius is. NASA did a study in the 1980s that focused on Head Start kids, so ages 3 to 5. They gave their assessment to that they used to kind of vet applicants for jobs at
Mhm.
NASA to assess how creative they were and innovative they were. They ended up giving that same test to 3 to 5 year olds because the test is not actually that complicated. It's pretty easy to take. But so, yeah, when they gave it to 3 to 5 year olds, they found that 98% of them tested as creative geniuses. And then they kept
Mm.
testing that same group throughout their lives. And once they got to adulthood, only 2% tested with that same level of creative genius. And so
Wow.
that's why we're super passionate about kind of helping families create that culture of play, reawaken who they are, that genius that's inside of them. We do a lot of work with Clifton Strengths because there's an assessment for kids as well. And so, really helping them understand each other through the lens of that genius. What is their unique genius? How do you nurture that? What are the needs of their strengths and conflict patterns that we can fall into? So, yeah, play, strengths, and really just encouraging them and empowering them to activate that genius that's inside of them. I think when you do it with your kids, even if you've lost it as an adult, so many of us have, by doing it with your kids, you can kind of reawaken that genius that's inside of you, and it opens up so much possibilities for work, family, relationships, yeah. So play is super powerful. So we should all be playing more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because it opens up our creativity in a way that we don't anticipate. Like we're always trying to
Mhm.
get into creative flow. I know my husband used to, on his deployments, he would take sets of Legos and he would leave it in his office so that anytime the soldiers would come in to report or do something, they had the ability to sit with them and play. And he was like, it never failed that they would always gravitate towards the Lego pieces, no matter who it was.
Mhm.
And, while he was made fun of often for having the most Legos in the room, everybody loved it, and it's kind of like a staple in his office now. And it just
Mhm.
goes to show that 2%, that is insanity to me. I am
Yeah.
just mind blown by that. I'm not surprised, but it's always mind blowing to hear those kind of statistics where you're like, okay, what are we needing to support and supplement in so that children can have that creative flow and be able to utilize that more. What are you guys setting up for tomorrow's event? And what time is it? Where can people find the information? We've already linked it, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's great. Livingroomleadershipsummit.com. So I know that's a mouthful, but that's the name of the event. It's the Living Room Leadership Summit. So if you go to livingroomleadershipsummit.com, you can learn more. You can register. It is a completely free event to join. It's going to start tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We've got a day of activities. We'll have several breaks, a good break for lunch. And then in the evening, we are gathering families. So the day activities are more geared towards parents, leaders,
Mhm.
educators, obviously adults who just want to learn how to lead their families using play, leveraging vision, purpose, values, understanding, help equipping you to understand your strengths, your family's strengths, like we talked about a few minutes ago. And so we're going to have a variety of different keynotes, main stage interviews and discussions, as well as some breakout sessions that are really practical, kind of workshop style sessions. We have psychologists, psychotherapists joining us as speakers. We have a former vice president of Design Future at Nike, Ken Black, who can speak so amazingly about vision, purpose, values in as a leader in a giant company, Fortune 100 company, and speaking about that. That translates into leadership at home. We have some poetry readings about family and parenthood that are going to kind of tease some of those emotional strings. And then, yes, in the evening, we will have that special family session. So from 7:30 to 9 Eastern time, you bring your entire family, gather in your living room, and we're going to be guiding you through some playful activities to help you define your family values as well as solve a specific challenge in your family. And so we're going to be facilitating those conversations. Most of that time is going to be on mute. We're just providing the space and the resources and the facilitated guidance while you're on mute having those conversations as a family. So
Mm.
yeah, so prepare to go on a scavenger hunt, prepare to bring some post-it notes. We're going to have some different tools to help you connect as a family in the evening. So it's going to be an incredible event. Everything's virtual, so it's not too late to jump in if you haven't signed up yet. Again, it's livingroomleadershipsummit.com. It's going to be incredible. We're so excited.
Oh, I love this. And, just if anybody's curious, who are you looking to partner with in this next season to bring this forward?
Yeah, so obviously we love serving families. We have variety of programs that are directly serving families. We have something called Living Room Leaders that equips families in the day to day. We have a strengths program. We also host our play shops here in Orlando. That can be anywhere from 2 hours. If you're here on vacation, anywhere from 2 hours up to 3 days of playful, facilitated type of work play shop. We don't call them workshops; we call them play shops because you're not doing work; you're playing. So that's obviously something we're really passionate about and love serving families directly. We would love to, serve more military families because that's so much part of our story. And then a new kind of venture for us is getting our programs and our work into companies and nonprofits.
Yeah.
Either working with their leaders on this idea of living room leadership. How does that look? How does home leadership translate into better leadership at work? And then or offering what we can provide to families as an employee benefit. So that's kind of our next stage, is jumping into that space, and really activating living room leadership, and by partnering with some companies and nonprofits as well.
Oh, I
So
love that.
but
That is beautiful.
the best place to get started is if you go to leadwithfamily.com. That's leadwithfamily.com. We have an assessment there. It's called the Family Score. It's kind of like if you've been in a nonprofit or a company or worked in a place where you did like an employee survey each year. Those surveys that we've all taken to kind of measure culture, measure job satisfaction. It's really that for your family. So really thinking about, how is my family functioning? It's focusing on 9 key areas that we help families focus on. And so it's really giving you an overall score, and then a score in these 3 spheres, as we call them,
Okay.
the be, a do, and a have, and how well your family's functioning based on those scores in those 3 spheres. So yeah,
Wow.
that's the best place to start.
Oh, I love it. Well, and one thing I want to ask you, or do like two more things, but what were the improvements that you saw as a family as a direct effort of doing all of this work? What were those key indicators that this was truly successful? Because obviously it is, otherwise, you guys wouldn't have pursued it. But
Mhm.
what were the differences you noticed?
Yeah, I mean, we do this work. We do the play shop as a family every year. And
Mhm.
so it's something that we do, something called Yes Week each year. It's a week that we're saying yes to each other. We're also working through all of the same type of work that we guide families through. A little bit harder to do for yourself, I'm not going to lie, cuz yeah, it's hard to get out of yourself and see what you can't see. But we still do it as a family. And it just, I can't even, it's hard to even describe what it yields, because our kids are 15 and 12, almost 13. So they're, in those ages where a lot of times everybody told me when my kids were younger, wait till the teen years, they'll stop talking to you. That we have not experienced that yet. And I think it's in
Mhm.
part because we commit to doing this work every year. Our daughter's 15 and she still holds our hands in public. Like, it's amazing. So, um,
Okay. Let me need
yeah.
that secret.
And so, our kids, they have their moments of arguing. I mean, a boy and a girl, but they get along so well. We just have this support system that is just functioning really well. I think oftentimes we reach for the latest thing that's on Instagram that's going to promise us a more clear, focused life, right? We get the calendar or the chore chart, and it's not necessarily going to work for your family because it might not be rooted in what you need or what your strengths are, what your kids' strengths are. And so for us, just knowing and understanding each other with that level of depth, it
Mhm.
just helps us respond in the day to day, because all of us are different. The likelihood you share your top 5 strengths in the same order as someone else is 1 in 33 million. So your spouse, if you haven't figured it out already, is different from you. I think all of us know that, right? But your kids are too. Sometimes we think they're mirror images of us. And no,
Right.
our kids each have a strength that is completely different than anything Jeff and I have. And so understanding them on that level enables us to support them in the day to day. It enables Jeff and I to support each other. and understand each other and support each other in a deeper way. So all of this work is just incredibly powerful, and it having these playful tools just even to support our family has been such a game changer. And sometimes, we're pulling them out throughout the year because we're like, okay, we really need to work through this or process this. And, even with our living room leaders program, we do a monthly session with our families that's called the Family Yes Planning Party. And it's
Mm,
figuring out, what do you want to say yes to in the next month? What intentions do you want to create? And then we guide them through some of these experiential exercises that we're going to be doing tomorrow night. We'll do that like to solve a problem, but we're participating in it just right alongside of them. It's not just we're facilitating it, we're actually
mhm.
going through that process too. And every having that space each month and that time set aside each month to just have those hard conversations, it oftentimes it the conversation continues well after the call, and it's opening up more
Yeah.
and more and more. And so, yeah, our living room is not just a training ground for leadership; it's also a battleground at times, and
Mm.
we feel that and embody that as our family as well, because we've seen how powerful this work has been for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. Well, and I'm writing down some notes of people I wanna introduce you to, so I was like, "Okay, now I know my brain this is my brain in real time." What's one thing you hope listeners take away from today?
Yeah, I mean, we believe that parents are the most powerful people in the world. It's interesting, and this is really the message of my keynote tomorrow at our summit is, Jeff flew who most people think is the most powerful person in the world for
Mm.
more than 6 years, the president of the United States, and yet we left that role. He stepped down from that role last year, retired from the military, because we wanted to invest in the people who we really believe are the most powerful, and that are parents and kids. And
Mhm.
because parents are raising the future of the world. And when we can activate that genius, when we can get out of ourselves, I think the disconnection, it's not something that just happens overnight. It's a series of small choices that we're making day to day, because we're just kind of like, instead of stepping in vision or living in vision, we're just, how do I just get through this day? And we're being reactive in our families and instead of proactive. We're proactive at work in our careers, but yeah, reactive in our families because we think, well, that'll just happen on its own, right? But it doesn't. And that's why so many get to the empty nest or to retirement or later in life, you know, wondering how to help their marriage survive because they don't know how to live with this person that they've been basically roommates with, or just regretting this. Um, I wish I'd spent more time with my kids or with my family, or that's such a huge regret that so many live with. And it really just it requires intention every single day. And by, owning that power to create the family that you want is it's that's what this life is about. Our company, Renala, is named after the baobab trees in Africa because we ask families, what if your family tree became less about the past and more about the future?
Mm.
And so, what's in the past is in the past, but you have the power to create what the future of your family tree is going to look like. And it requires a series of choices that you have
Mm.
to make each day to be present, to live in vision, and to kind of get outside of yourself and see your family, to see others as who they are and understand them as who they are. So,
Wow.
yeah, if you're a parent listening, you are the most powerful person in the world. So
Mm.
take that and own it.
Wow, and that's not something we credit ourselves at all as parents. We're usually the opposite end, like beating
Mhm.
ourselves up or,
Yep.
thinking about the ways we feel we've shortcome. And so I think it's beautiful that you're bridging that connection and allowing us to reframe it and, like you said, honor it and own it. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn, which is definitely where I post most often, although I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little frustrated with that platform. So we also are on Instagram trying to grow, level up a little bit more on there. That we're at Renala Families on Instagram. And then we are at leadwithfamily.com.
Okay.
So LEAD with family.com. You can find us there. And then again, Living Room Leadership Summit for tomorrow. And then the book that we just released a few weeks ago, if you want to kind of start exploring this idea and kind of some of these ideas in your family, it's really the blueprint that we use with families. So if you wanted to get started kind of DIYing it, you can find that book at livingroomleadershipbook.com as well. So yeah, those are all the places.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for saying yes right before a very busy day. I know
Mhm.
that I was like, well, maybe we can make it work.
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
I'm very thankful to have you here. And I hope that people will join you tomorrow. I know that I'm going to tune in as well. So I think it's incredible work. Even though I'm an empty nester, there's information that you can always learn. So thank you for
For
being a
sure.
guest, and thank you for everyone who has paid attention today. And for anyone watching the replay, we just thank